Hi there, this is January 2022, and I'm Sonal Ahuja, host on InsideOut, a YouTube channel initiated with a vision to bring best practices and stories of people to evolve mindsets. I believe that all of you had an extraordinary December and, of course, an incredible start of the year 2022. Furthermore, I'm so happy and glad today to present this year's first conversation on Inside Out with the engineers of the most cutting edge innovations to design and fast track personal evolution. And this innovation, is named as Excellence Installation Technology by Antano, Solajon, and Harini Ramchandran. So it's an extraordinary inclination having you both here, Antano and Harini. You are most welcome on the platform of Inside Out. Thanks for coming and taking out time.
It's a pleasure.
Such a pleasure, Sonal.
Well, excellence installation technology, it's a great combination of three most captivating words whenever I sat and thought about it. Excellence to me is more like being outstanding, being creative, maybe being super different. But installations and technology are two family words to me. And I only see in my head, the softwares and the machines when I kind of read these two words. So I want to know, what is the relationship between these three words and how they actually came to your notice that it really literally got packed together and the technology got developed. What is it?
Okay, so for us, installation is more of an analogy, Sonal, in the sense that, something that you do once and then it's just there with you for a while. And you may not know how exactly the particular app on your mobile works. Like when you open Facebook, you may not necessarily know how that application works, but you do know that if you go and install that particular app, then you can make it work. And Harini and I fundamentally figured that there is a big gap in the world between intention and capabilities. So there's a lot of good people in the world who really want to do good things, but all the stories that we see of rags to riches, we see people who had a vision and then made it happen, are really one in a million. There are another 9,99,999 people who have the intention, who have the vibe. It's not that they don't want to, it's not that they're not trying, but sometimes there is a capability gap. Now, we're all born with some capability that we naturally acquire from our genes, from our ecosystem, from people around us. But then there are also certain things that will complete what we have. Now imagine if the singer is so beautiful, melodic, and can be on pitch, but if she can't be on rhythm, that would be an incomplete thing, right? If that particular thing is corrected, then she suddenly has like a fuller range of what she is naturally gifted with. So installation is an analogy to how you install applications on a iOS or an Android on a phones. How do you install how do you develop certain capabilities? And just like an application, a genius doesn't necessarily always know how their capabilities are necessarily made. What are they made of? If you ever find a genius and you ask them, someone who's extraordinary at what they do, and you ask them, how do you do what you do? The verbal description this person might give you maybe very generic, maybe very something that many others already do, but it's not what sets them apart. Because most times what makes a genius is very unconscious.
Okay.
So capabilities are also unconscious processes. There are things we don't know that come together as strategies, as processes, as biochemical responses that kind of give you the outcome of a particular capability. So the analogy indicates that you don't need to know what helps you develop that capability. Now, when we refer to capability, we're referring to fundamental capabilities. Something unuseful happens. Some people can forget it in a day. Some people take a year to forget. So they forget and let go in a day is a capability. It doesn't come by just wanting it. It has to at some point become more than a habit. It's a decision. It's instant. So like that, there are thousands of different capabilities that each of us have that is so natural to us, but is extraordinary to somebody else. Can they go to an app store and install that capability? So that's the analogy behind installations.
Okay.
Excellence to me isn't fixed. Excellence is something that just keeps, you have to keep raising the bar of excellence. And because what is excellent today, even in a personal standard, 6 months from now is going to be ordinary, is going to be mediocre. You have to get to the next level, and that will be excellent. And when you get there, you get to the next level, and that's the fundamental DNA of excellence and excellence installation technology.
Right.
Because there's no advice or conscious expectation that a particular person does ABC. Installation is a methodology where we install a capability, where after we finish the piece of work that we are doing with the person, they go back to their natural environment. They couldn't do something before, but now they're able to do it naturally and easily. That is where installation comes. But then if it's just in the hands of two people, and then we'd just probably have to be called magicians, or like two ethereal people who can just do this thing. But technology is where it becomes repeatable. It becomes educable, it's reliable. You can predict when you do ABC, you get XYZ results. And to me, the entire piece of excellence installation technology has two primary components. One is that of predictive intelligence. Is of the millions of capabilities that one can build, how do you know what capabilities must you build? So there's that predictive intelligence, and that's different for different people. And the second piece that is included in excellence installation technology is to just do it. So to predict what is the technology that will change the trajectory of their what are the set of capabilities that will change the trajectory of their life, and two is make an installation of that capability and just sit back and watch their life outcomes unfold in front of them.
Isn't it quite massive? It's about humans, and of course each person is different, and I believe that there would be definitely a different set of installations for each one of them approaching you. So this kind of with my very little knowledge that I have about engineering, I mean Antano knows it better, being an engineer by profession. um, when any technology gets into the market, it really needs to follow a certain kind of a process of, say, implementations, or, the right functioning of the technology. So, was there any process of implementation that this technology required?
So Sonal, if you look at it, any technology takes about 1,000 years before it kind of gets, the kind of regulation that it kind of has today. Like if you take engineering, I mean, it's been there for thousands of years, and medical science, hundreds and thousands of years. So there's, it's not the outcome of one or two individuals. It's actually, when the whole world gets together to kind of regulate an industry. So I think we are like, when Hippocrates discovered what he discovered, that era must have been very different from how medical science works today.
Right.
So I think we are there, and maybe it may not take another 1,000 years for excellent installations to kind of be available to everybody. But what we do know is we have some evidence of how some things have not necessarily gone well with, for example, medical science, what it was supposed to be and what it has turned out to become, and not necessarily. I'm not sure if Hippocrates was sitting today, he would agree with this is the field that he discovered.
Hippocrates is known as the father of medicine. Like he's the right.
So I think we have those lessons from history. That's the best that we have right now. I think Harini and I are keeping it very tightly controlled at the moment, because we don't want the same thing that happened to NLP happen with excellence installations.
Okay.
Because I think one of the unfortunate things that happened was, I think John Grinder and Richard Bandler kind of popularized Neuro Linguistic Programming. and they did not have the necessary legal regulation required for them to have a tight grip on who can call themselves as an NLP practitioner. So today, you can certify your cat as an NLP practitioner. You can go online and you can pay a fee and you can actually get that certification. Now, I think that is that happened because John and Richard called NLP as a field, and the US law said that you cannot have regulations around this as a private organization because you have called it a field.
Okay.
Now, so one of the things that Harini and I are doing is, even in our certifications for excellence installations, since it's just evolving, we don't even know, the boundary conditions. We don't know. Sometimes in our team, we kind of wonder, 10 years down the line, is some of the work that feels cutting edge to us right now, is that really going to be cutting edge to the world? It's cutting edge now, but 10 years down the line, that might be basic.
Yeah.
Even in our certifications and who we qualify as an excellence installation specialist, it's a time-bound agreement. So there is a continuous evaluation that we do every year or two before to let someone know that they're still, in our standards, who we would call as a qualified excellence installation specialist. Now, obviously, Harini and I envision to create 1 lakh quality excellence installation specialists over the next 5 years.
Around the world.
And
I think the world will be very different when that happens, because you've seen, Sonal, how with just a handful of excellence installation specialists in the country, the impact that they have been able to create is just unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Their own family.
Absolutely. I'm experiencing it, yeah.
They've been able to create absolutely unbelievable outcomes in their own family and the ecosystem around them. An excellent installation specialist to me is a prime example of being able to take intent and capability, marry them together, and the natural outcome of that is legacy. And when I look at all of the excellence installation specialists, they've gotten onto their path to legacy far earlier than I see people, outside of those who've been exposed to excellent installation technology. The time that it takes for someone to get on a path to create a legacy is anywhere between 10 to 15 to 20 years for a lot of people, if they ever get to it. But in my heart, I believe every individual, every human being can create a legacy. But most people don't, because they don't have access to something or the other in their life, or there's some aspect within their life which is missing. There's an arc which is missing. An excellent installation technology identifies those missing arcs and does the installations as well. So in compressed time, anybody can get on a legacy path with excellent installation. So when we have 1 lakh excellent installation specialists around the world, for me what's fascinating is the ripple effect that it will create all the way from there, trickling down to, the poorest child in Africa, I know will be impacted by an excellent installation specialist in a very, very special way. Because now we've been able to literally make happen what other people call miracles. Somebody's not able to study, and then you're able to get them to study. Somebody's not able to focus, you're able to get them to focus. Somebody has like a lifelong fear, or they've been carrying terrible baggage, they've gone through abusive relationships and stuff like that. They're able to get over it in 45 minutes. And this is not even the tip of the iceberg, right? Like, there's just so much that is possible with excellent installations. And I see with 1 lakh excellent installation specialists around the world, human beings are going to go through a significant rise in their guts, in their wisdom, and in their conscience as well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who else can be a better evidence than me? I mean, I've experienced being a member of NH myself, and I know how much power it has. But still, there are a lot of questions. Even my clients ask me, how is NH different than other organizations when you talk about NLP?
So two things, Sonal. The reason got into NLP to begin with 10 years ago I've said this in the events, but one of the things that I have always told people is our original vision with School of Excellence was to get rid of all human intervention related to NLP practitioners. So I thought of designing these machines, computers that can actually kind of do what NLP procedures can do for people. And simply because I was coming from the phrase of NLP is so powerful, but when I wanted to learn it, and I was just out of college, and I had learned my NLP from books, right? And I had read, and I had already utilized it for several transformations for myself, and so on. And being 20, and at 22, being like a CTO, I have the money to afford it, and I'm looking at, can I learn NLP from somebody in this country? And I was searching around, and I was surprised that I couldn't find a single person who seemed to have the test condition for me to know that they have NLP skills. Now, NLP just makes things black and white when it comes to transformation. It says if someone walks in with a problem, they either, there's only two possibilities, right? They go back with the problem, or they go back without the problem. Now, if people say I got awareness of it, I got clarity of it, I got some solution around it, I mean that it is still in the category of they're still walking with the problem.
Absolutely.
So I learned even before we got into this business, I learned NLP for the fun of it, and I went to London, met Richard, and learned from John. And when Funny Kumar met with an accident, and I really wanted someone to help him, I wrote to John and I asked John if he can help me help Funny Kumar. And when John decided to mentor, I realized that what is available as NLP as a technology is far superior to what is available in the market by practitioners. So Harini and I, and me being this engineer and the data scientist and good with artificial intelligence, I wanted to create stalls where people can go in and say this is the problem, and then there is a game that they play and they're plugged in, and then the system kind of reads whether the changes are happening, and then gives them instructions. And it's nothing invasive, they're still doing it, but the system kind of calibrates to know what is their next step, and it either gives them as instructions or gets them into a game that produces the results. So fundamentally, Harini and I wanted to eliminate the need for NLP practitioners around the world. That is why we started the School of Excellence, because we felt that the quality of NLP practitioners was way below standard. And I remember a conversation that I had briefly a long time ago with John and Carmen, when they said their definition of an NLP practitioner. Okay, now you must understand there are millions of NLP skills, and some of
I asked this question to you.
Some of them have not even formally learned NLP. They just teach NLP, thinking that's what they think is what is NLP. And even in a school that is from the lineage from John Grinder says his idea of an NLP certification means that you know enough NLP to be empowered and have choices in your life. You may choose to use these patterns on other people, but it is not a license to go out there and make yourself a therapist or coach or whatsoever.
A medical practitioner is different from an NLP practitioner, right? But when you hear the word practitioner, you want to put them in the same league as that of a medical practitioner who spent 5 years doing their basic medicine and then for another 4 years doing their masters. But an NLP practitioner spends 6 days to get that certification. So the normalization is a little strange, and then you're looking at NLP practitioners and say, oh, NLP doesn't work, and that's a pity, because NLP is fantastic.
Absolutely.
If you learn it well and you have the right guidance, and the difference between like ho-hum and something that actually is hardcore NLP. Because today you have so many people doing all kinds of trash and calling it all NLP, and there's no regulation around it. That's the sad part. So we are the biggest fans of NLP. We love NLP. We use NLP in our work day in and day out. What we are
so the challenge that we noticed is that when we wanted to create these automated games and stuff, when we were, so there were two things we need to validate. Well, NLP works when we do it. Does it work when we teach people to do it? And the answer was yes. It works, okay, we have like 100 case studies. What happens if we have 10,000? It still works. But then we found out one particular thing, that for the outcomes of time compression, which has always been Harini's and my ambition, is like, someone comes in and says, can I do this in 1 year? And we look at, can we help them achieve it in 2 months? For the outcomes of time compression, and also sometimes for ecological reasons, we realize that you need a human being, not for NLP and the change work and transformation that can be done, even when we have these chaoses, but predictive intelligence, to be able to help someone arrive at what are some capabilities and limit that they need to develop and limitations they need to overcome that will actually have an integrated outcome in their life. So that's the part that I think, John Grinder as a person did it so naturally. Like, when he's helping you, he already knows that this transformation is going to have a butterfly effect. That's the part that Harini and I did naturally in our events. And we are the only business in the world that even set ourselves up to develop predictive intelligence systematically. So how do you know what's the long-term consequences of your work?
Exactly.
Assuming you can help somebody get an immediate transformation today. Someone walks in, they're an angry person, and they walk out having the new capability to not be angry in certain situations. So we all can assume philosophically that it's a good thing. But how do we empirically know what's the consequence of that? So we're the only people in the world so far who have set up a business that allows for such input of data.
Okay.
So we set up business from the beginning that anybody who comes into a program can come unlimited times for a year, for 2 years, 3 years. And we used to do 18 events. So unlimited times and 18 events a year is a lot of revisits. So we kind of see how people evolve during the years together, and it kind of formed this predictive intelligence for us.
I somehow am interested to know that when you talk about predictive intelligence, are you trying to say that predictive intelligence prevails in all of us? Is it natural, genetic, or even that needs to be looked upon, nurtured, or installed?
I think predictive intelligence is an important component. Just like we have IQ, EQ, I think we also have predictive intelligence quotient. It's the basic unit of what makes us, what people call as wisdom, what people call as intelligence, are all examples of what we are underneath is actually predictive intelligence. In a family, suddenly when there's a balance of power changing, like there's suddenly someone who's younger taking up, more charge, and then the old person kind of knows that something is going to go wrong, but nobody understands. And after 5 years or 4 years, that disaster happens, and then everybody's like, okay, we should have listened to it.
I said it before.
And also when as parents, sometimes when your child is growing up, you're already, even before the child is born, you're thinking about, if I put my child in this school, they'll have this side of company, this will be their personality, this will be their character. So everybody kind of utilizes some quotient of predictive intelligence. But predictive intelligence can be contextual. Some people can have great predictive intelligence in one area of their life and can completely lack predictive intelligence on another. And also predictive intelligence can be more systemic. It can be more, just like intuition, it can be heightened. It can be tuned. There are capabilities like systemic thinking. There are capabilities like ecosystem awareness. There are things that you can develop that kind of heightens and sharpens your predictive intelligence.
Okay. Yeah.
And part of what we do in our EID education is we actually help people improve and increase their predictive intelligence quotient
across various contexts.
Hmm.
A lot of people have very good predictive intelligence in one context, but in another context, they don't have good predictive intelligence. As a consequence of which, something goes up, but then something goes down, and then this gets messed. And so there's how can you get predictive intelligence in business, in health? Had far too many legends who've died too young.
Right.
Where's
So you're trying to say it has to be a a beautiful balance or a completion of a loop altogether to be able to reach at a certain level in the predictive intelligence.
Yes, it has to be a completion of their. Yes, so there are different levels of predictive intelligence, and the more they complete certain capabilities and arcs and skills, intelligence keeps going higher and higher, and also gets in more integrated outcomes. So, for example, like Harini said, that there are a lot of people who did great in certain things, but they were doing it at the cost of their health, or they did it at the cost of their relationship, or they did it at another cost. So it also is it's a super speciality. It's a superpower to have predictive intelligence that is also leading to integrated life outcomes.
Right.
The simplest benefit of a person developing predictive intelligence, which is the thing that we go after with excellence installation technology. If there's one superpower that excellence installation specialists are empowered with, are equipped with, it's predictive intelligence across various contexts. And the immediate benefit of that is that they are making better decisions, and they can influence people around them to make better decisions. And our life story, where we arrive in life, is simply an outcome of making better and better and better and better decisions. There are times when you said, okay, if I had done that a little differently, I would have arrived there. Or if I could have dealt with that a little differently. But then it's not just one moment, like every moment we're making decisions. And how can you make better decisions? How can you be more right? Because every decision that you're making is not just impacting you in the present moment, it has a long-term consequence. That is the part that most people don't have visibility into. How do people get stuck in midlife crisis?
Absolutely.
It does at midlife, right? It starts because of the decisions they made as a teenager, the kind of relationships they got into back then, the things that they chose to prioritize over the other, and then the set of decisions that they chose to make after that. And then let's say they did not have the capability to handle pressure, they go and make certain other kind of decisions influenced by whatever. So
sometimes it can even be they don't have the ability to handle conflict and compromise, and I don't know, like so many different
business,
things.
career, relationships is all about
The interesting
making
thing is
decisions.
nobody, like if you take a set of people who would feel like they are having midlife crisis, and if you ask them 5 years ago if they would have anticipated that they might have end into midlife, like no one is going to say yes. They're
Yeah. So I'm sure their decisions would have been different. They would come up with, okay, I would have done this rightly. I did not do it. Yeah.
With EID education for their kids as young as 18, 14 also. At least I see at our up events, we have people who have started their up journey. They've come for accelerating their success. And they're interacting with people not just their age, they're interacting with somebody who's 76 years old, they're interacting with somebody who's 55 years old. And with all of the predictive intelligence and installations, they're now suddenly having more of an infuse of wisdom, which is enabling them to make better decisions starting from a very, very young age.
Absolutely. Yeah. Close to my heart, all the up events. Okay. So, we're talking about children. And I don't know why, when I talk about NLP to Antano and Harini, I don't know why it is not considered in the league of mental health. It is absolutely required, and the amount of expertise and the depth you both have, I think NLP can go a long way. There is a ton of harm that is going on in the family, especially in the area of parenting. And also, for the reason I'm asking you is that on the grounds that the children in the early years of their age, especially 0 to 10, they begin associating meaning to every conceivable thing which is spoken to them, which is shown to them, which is projected in front of them. And that is the reason outrageously it becomes significant for the parents to feel the importance of behaving right. They should have the importance of using right words, communicating in the right way. So I'm kind of eager to know from you, how can EIT help aiding parents and in fact, the educators, because they deal with children a lot on everyday basis, to upskill themselves?
So I think parents have to base their parenting based on actual calibration at home, uh, meaning they have to see what's the impact they're having on their children, and not base it based on philosophical decisions. Uh, to give you an analogy, the area where I live is called IT park right now in Chennai.
Okay.
And it's the only place where you can't find house help, you can't find anything at the same rate that you can find anywhere else in the city. You can't even get an auto there because where, like, if you were to pay, like, say $50 to go from one place to another for a particular distance, in the area where I live, you have to pay like $200. And the reason is because a lot of the people who came there are young software professionals who suddenly, they came from like growing up in a middle class family where there's a tight budget on education. They're spending like 100 rupees. The parents give them like 100 to 1,000 depending on their economic status, or say 100 to 10,000 depending on their economic status, for an entire month. And suddenly these individuals get a high paying job and they have like a lakh of rupees in their hand. So they don't know how to spend it, and what they do is they start spending the money very differently. I mean, 10 years ago, right? So I'm not talking about what's happening now.
No.
So they start spending the money very differently. They start being a little careless with it. And then what you see is that the entire area, so when there is an ID park in the country, the attitude of people towards responsibilities and what they can charge for certain things changes compared to the rest of the areas in the city. And I would accredit that to suddenly having so much money in there. Now the same thing is happening with parenting, but it's not suddenly having so much money, it's suddenly having so much information. So the new parent has Google, the new parent has a community and societies formed by other amateur parents, new parents. And there are so much theories and informations on how to style, and suddenly the parent feels like their parents are irrelevant. Feel like the things that their parents did is absolutely wrong, and then there is a better way to raise the child. The challenge in that approach is that it is not based on observation, it's not empirically valid. It is merely based on feelings. What the rest of the parents feel is the right way to raise the child. So what happens is the parent has no predictive intelligence because the only way they could have gotten it, or any input they've had from their own experience, they cut it off. And now they have so much information bombarding, but I don't know if the parent is necessarily equipped to evaluate by experience what's the impact this is having on the character of the child, what's the impact this is having on the personality, on the capabilities of the child. And I don't know if parents are adaptive enough to take on a method and then see what it's doing to the children and then to pick on another method. Most of the times I only notice parents saying, oh, I don't want to raise my child like my mother, my father. And in fact, some people go extremes to make sure that in-laws don't interfere with the parenting. And while all that is done with good intention, the alternative to that is very shallow, which is, is information and books and advices and philosophies given by other parents who themselves may not have experience of having raised a kid.
True.
So so I think what we can do for parents with excellence installations is help them develop predictive intelligence, which is very, 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 very key. And also part of predictive intelligence is always evaluating your own theories and your own ideas. I tell people in my programs that, even though I have done over like 10,000 installations myself personally, even now when I do an installation for a person, I always call it a guess, because I'm confident and I'm 99% of the time accurate. But even then, I call it a guess because I want myself to know that at the end of the day, I have a responsibility to validate
Yeah, right.
what's the long-term outcome of that particular guess.
Mm.
So I think I mean, I'm sure, but I still call it a guess because I still need to have that validation.
Excellent installation doesn't necessarily always tell you what to do or what not to do, but it builds the circuitry in you to know, to predict, to have your eyes open to the fact that what you're doing today has a consequence,
Right.
and not be arrogant about the decisions you're taking today as it is right, or blinded to the fact that they actually have consequences. The excellent installation gives you the capability to be flexible, to have your eyes open, to recognize the impact of the work and change course if you need to, so that the desired outcome is achieved. That wisdom and flexibility is the essence of excellent installation.
And that means that's a call for the schools and the parents to get into learning these skills and understanding what exactly those capabilities are going to be for them if they dive in, and the kind of improvisation and better relationships would happen. Because there is a lot happening in this sphere, and I'm myself noticing a lot of families facing a lot. And specifically when it comes to the mental health of children. In fact, I really wanted to learn from you that what is that message you would like to give to the parents through this interview? What is that they can do at homes to prevent the onset of the mental illness of children, which is almost 50% at the age of 14? It's happening now. So that's what the statistics say. So what is that? That's a message from you, Antano and Harini, to the families, to the parents. What can they do about it? I know they all are not on the platforms to come and learn NLP or improvise their skills right away, but then 2 or 3 messages, if you would like to give, if you get an opportunity, what would be that?
Well, I think it's a capability to be happy, to be in the moment, and to be able to notice and predict. These are all not things that you desire to do and it happens. These are capabilities. So that would be the first message, because I think a lot of people think that tomorrow I'll spend more time, tomorrow I'll be more present, tomorrow I'll have more energy, tomorrow I will feel happier. And if you're not going to feel happy, if you're not going to be energetic around your children, then you're sending the wrong message.
Right.
And be that to shut off from work or shut off from any problems, to be able to instantaneously light up like a candle, to be like a flower, to glow like a butterfly around your children is a capability. And it has to be developed. Excellence installations can help a person develop it in a shorter time, but it's not the only way. There are other methods. They may take 10 times longer, but it is possible for people to develop that capability. They can develop that capability so that anytime they're around their children and their entire family, actually around their spouse and their children, if they can light up like a candle, glow like a butterfly, and feel like a breeze inside, then it's going to evoke and bring out a very different togetherness in the family. So that would be my first and most important message, that it's a capability. It can take even 10 years to develop this.
Okay.
It depends. If someone is like mildly depressed, it's going to take 10 years for them to have instant light. And if we say instant, it means on demand. It means every time. It's not like days I'll be like this and half day.
And I think the damage occurs then and there, because you're taking even a single day in that mindset and that vibe you carry around the people in your family, you're doing the damage. The damage is occurring.
Totally. I agree with you 100%, Sonal, because then what you're teaching the child is that kind of a mediocrity state choice is the accepted norm. The child is, when growing up, they agree and accept that Okay, so sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I'm sad.
It's
You know,
okay to be like that.
it's okay to be like that.
I think that becomes a part of your own belief system that way. It's the way you've been into
Yeah.
your ecosystem for years.
Becomes an imprint for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, I feel like one uh, medicine to ensuring that there's better and better and better mental health in a family is when all the members of the family evolve. I've never seen a problem not being solved by personal evolution. When a person prioritizes their personal evolution, and especially when the head of the family, or when, or like, to me, personal evolution, and that's what I find really fascinating about X installation technology, is like right at our own events. I mean, I have not seen anything in the world where so many families come together. When they're coming in, they may come as one person, but in the next event, there are 5 people from their family. And because it's impossible when you personally taste the fruits of your personal evolution and what it's doing to you, your happiness, what you are able to do in the same 24 hours, in your business, in your family, in your relationships, in the time that you have, in your health, in your mental health, in every aspect of your life. When you're experiencing a next level, even if you don't bring your family over, you are already creating that impact. But when your family also evolves, I have seen even the gravest of problems get solved when the entire family has prioritized personal evolution.
True.
Personal evolution is about building capabilities, and when you build capabilities, you notice that even like the most difficult situations that do get people into mental health challenges at the present, uh, they're able to have a better understanding of themselves, better understanding of the situation. They're able to have better state choice and able to make better decisions, so they can get themselves out of the situation, even if
As
they're.
soon as possible.
So I feel like we wouldn't even have quarter the amount of mental health problems that we have today if only people prioritize their personal evolution. Personal evolution first, everything else next, because when personal evolution is your number one priority, everything else falls in line. And by personal evolution, I don't mean becoming an addict to certifications, becoming a
Oh,
just
like you don't want to be a
learning from
motivational
books.
junkie.
That's
Like,
really weird. People coming up with a huge certificate in their hands, and you talk to them, and you're like, "Oh my god." Yeah, you're right. And this reminds me of my journey of choosing my mentors, and that craving to learn NLP. I took almost 5 years to decide on ANH. Okay, these are the people I'm going to go with. Right, because I was fascinated by what Antano said, that we don't give you certificates, and you don't need to have a certificate in a hand for something. That's most exciting. Yeah.
Life's most important things don't come with a certificate.
True.
you're a certified parent.
Message. I really loved that personal evolution has to be the priority, of course. What else would you like to give as an end note?
I think there are two types of people who want to get. One type of people are people who want to get to the next level in the things that they have, their job, their finance, their career, the cars that they have, and the houses that they own. And then there's a second kind of people who want to continuously get to the next level, who they are in, their capabilities, their traits, in the contributions they can make, and their thinking, and so on. And I think a lot of problems can be avoided if people can make the shift from the first category to the second category. Now, everybody wants to be, evolving, but what most people don't realize is when you evolve, the results in the other areas, like the money and the career, happen automatically. But it's not necessarily vice versa. You have so many examples of people who become rich and then lose it all. They're unhappy. So many things happen. But when people evolve, holistically, when they complete their arcs. So that's one of the things that Harini and I talk about is completing your rarity. So you have so many gifts, but there may be just that one single thing that when you add kind of completes your rarity for that level, and then another arc for the next level. So when people continuously evolve, the rest of the things in their life kind of happens more naturally and easily. And I think for parenting, that's a very important thing because a lot of parents are caught in the rut of, the EMI that they have to pay every month, tax planning, the attitude of certification so that I can get a better job, so that I can get more salary, prevails over how can I get myself to the next league? How can I be the world's best at these things that I do? And how do I expand my horizons? How do I expand my vision of what is possible for myself by myself? I think that attitude, if the parents have, it's likely that the children are going to pick that attitude. At the end of the day, children are going to be a Xerox copy in a lot of ways of their parents. Now, on the outside, it might look like, that they're very different, and one is modern, one is traditional, da 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 da. But actually, if you look at it deeper, the values and the core systems most times are like, a Xerox copy. So if the parent is focused on the outward things, the child is going to be focused on the outward. The internal, the ability to. So what I mean by that is, I'm not saying that you kind of go sit in the Himalaya and then evolve yourself. But I think there is a strategic way to evolve that when you get better, the other outward things also happen naturally.
Actually, yeah.
So you're using your personal evolution as a driver, but you're at the same time strategic so that you have an integrated and complete and wholesome. So
Harini, would you like to add something?
That's my primary message. So that like completely seconding what Antano just said. It's not any evolution; it's strategic personal evolution, and where you don't have to compromise on any aspect of your life, your business, health, family, legacy, all together simultaneously. And when you look at it from that perspective, you're so systemic in your thinking that you pass on that kind of systemic thinking to your child as well. And calibration based parenting, there's absolutely no substitute to that. To always have your eyes open to what are the consequences, where you're measuring it, where you're seeing it, you're not blind to it. And having the flexibility to change and adapt your styles or approaches based on the impact that it's continuing to have.
Absolutely. Yes, it makes a lot of sense, and it also gives me a message, and probably the message to all the people who will be viewing this interview is that the focus as a parent need to be on evolving themselves rather pivoting on what my child is up to.
Yeah, I think parent needs to become capability builders. They need to become designers of how children evolve.
Absolutely.
Not restrict themselves to be a watchman.
The owners of the life that they have given birth to the child, they have the birthright and they can control the kids. It's primarily about how are they presenting themselves to this new being who has come into their life as a mentor.
Yeah.
One of the finest forms of doing that is becoming a model of excellence.
Yeah,
yourself.
and now that you use the word mentor, I think most children don't look up to their parents.
Absolutely, you're right. And personal evolution is the key I'm taking back today through this interview, that it's only about one key that is in your hand, and that is your own personal evolution.
Strategic personal evolution.
Absolutely. Strategic personal evolution. Right. Thank you so much.
It
was wonderful talking to you. I was really longing to, have a conversation on this topic with you. Thanks for taking out time.
Pleasure, Sonal. Very, very excited about this new initiative that you've taken with InsideOut, and reaching out to parents with inspiration, with points to put their attention on, and setting yourself as apart from the rest of the information that's available to parents today. May your impact multiply and grow and help many, many, many more families blossom.
Thank you so much.